in question, and people speak about the Imam is separate to the Caliph. We have certain groups or denominations within the Anila Sulta who speak about the Imam and the Caliph being two different things. But the thing is, in Sahih al-Bukhari, in the book of, it's volume 3, it's called, I think it's the Manumission of Slaves. In there, Abdullah ibn Umar, he says, فَإِمَامٌ رَائِن وَمَسْئُولٌ عَنْ رَائِيَاتِهِ. He said the Imam is a guardian and he is responsible for the people, he's responsible for his charges. Then the same narration by Abdullah ibn Umar states that فَأَمِيرُ الَّذِي عَلَى النَّاسِ رَائِن وَمَسْئُولٌ عَنْ رَائِيَاتِهِ. The Amir amongst the people is a guardian and is responsible for his subjects. Abdullah ibn Umar, this is a narration. Here you have the Amir and the Imam, and they're both the same thing. They are quoted in Bukhari, and this is teaching me as a person, it's teaching me that it is the same thing, it's not anything different. So the Amir and the Imam are, you know, essentially the same thing. Absolutely, sister, mashallah. And the viewers that are watching, they can mashallah read the book, because at the moment sister is only mentioning some of the things that, but in very, very briefly, so the viewers can get this book and mashallah read it, inshallah. So sister, reading your introduction, really, you know, you've mentioned the event of Ghadir. That was a very, very important event that you've mentioned. You know, that was really a starting point as well, that you mentioned the event of Ghadir. So what have you said about that in your book? You know, would like to tell the viewers. I've quoted the narrations to do with Ghadir, but you know, the leading authority, like you have Sahih Muslim, and then we have Bukhari. Well, Bukhari himself hasn't quoted the tradition, but he has quoted it in his Tarikh al-Kabir. But we have two ways of this tradition. You have Hadith al-Thaqalain, and you have to do with Man kunta mawla fa ali mawla, which everybody knows about. But the thing is, within Sunan al-Kubra, An-Nasa'i, he quotes both these things together. That's a very important point, sister, that we believe that Man kunta mawla fa haza aliyan mawla. This is a point when, as you've mentioned in your book, that the Holy Prophet, peace be upon him, said that after me, Imam Ali alayhi salam is my Imam, he's a Khalifa, he's the one who's going to be after me, he's going to be the leader after me. And that's where really the difference is between the Shias and the Sunnis. So how can you really explain to the viewers, you know, what would you like to say about that from your book? Well, for me, when you think of Ghadir and you think of tradition of Ghadir, when I've just quoted to you Sunan al-Kubra, which is An-Nisa'i, Sunan al-Kubra, and Rasul sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, he says, Inni tarik fikum thaqalayn, kitabullah wa ahlul bayt, fanzur kayfa takhallafuni. Watch how you treat these two after me. He says, I left amongst you the Quran and Ahlul Bayt. So watch how you fanzur kayfa takhallafuni. Watch how you treat these two after me. Fahuma, for these two, lan yatafarraqa hatta yurida ali al-hawd. These two will not separate until they come to me at the pool. But the thing is, when I think of this, and then I think straight after that, Prophet Muhammad, he speaks about saying Allah is Mawla, my Mawlaya. Absolutely. And then he says to me, and then I am the wali of the believers, the mu'min. Then he says to whosoever I have been a wali, Ali is a wali. So from the beginning to the end, I'm not just quoting Man kunta mawla fahada Ali mawla, I'm quoting the whole lot. Don't just bring out one little bit of that narration, bring the whole lot there so everybody can see the context of what is going on here. So when you have the Quran and Ahlul Bayt together, when I think of Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, I think Prophet Muhammad was a walking, talking Quran. Absolutely. He was the Quran. When we say, you know, as Muslims, when we speak of the Quran, we're speaking Prophet Muhammad here because he brought that. So when a person is placed with the Quran, we're saying, who is it that's been left as the walking, talking Quran, should I say? And so when you say Quran and Ahlul Bayt, through Ghadir, not through anything else, through Ghadir, and then you think of, after that, you think of Imam Ali alayhi salam. Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, then speaks about Imam Ali alayhi salam. So he tells you who the first one is in that tradition. He's there telling you. So Allah is he's an authority for all of us. Then he says about his own authority. Then he speaks about Imam Ali's authority. So that in itself, if a person tries to misinterpret that and say that it means just to treat the Ahlul Bayt well. Well, hang on a minute. Rasul sallallahu alayhi wasallam says in Sunan al-Kubra, he says, "Fanzur kayfa takhallafuni fihima." Watch how you treat these two after me. Not just treat the Ahlul Bayt, treat these two after me.
Yeah, so sister, over here we come to another very important difference between the Shias and the Sunnis, which is that our Sunni brothers say that we have the hadith of the Holy Prophet, peace be upon him, which is, I leave behind the Quran and the Ahlul Bayt, I leave behind the Quran and the Sunnah, and I leave behind the Quran and the Sahaba. So from your book, you know, what you've written in your book, what would you like to say about this issue?
Well, there's a section in my book, and it's called The Fundamental Instruction Left by the Prophet. And when I looked at all these, when I was researching into it myself, obviously in the Muwatta Imam Malik it mentions the book and the Sunnah. I mean, I don't have a problem with that, but the thing is, when you say the book and the Sunnah, and I think of Rasul sallallahu alayhi wa sallam at Arafat, because that's where a lot of people state that this was mentioned and then if that is the case, then at the same time you have a narration by Jabir ibn Abdullah to state that the Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, stated and my Ahlul Bayt rather than the Sunnah, then to me, when I'm thinking of this, and I'm thinking of Prophet Muhammad stood there in front of the people and he's telling the people that there's something here that you need to attach to. If I'm a convert, this is what I've written in my book, if I'm somebody who's come new to Islam, who doesn't know anything about Quran, nothing about the Sunnah, and then I'm thinking, Ya Rasulullah, who am I to go to? Say if somebody says to me Quran and Sunnah, who do I go to? So then, does Rasulullah answer? And then I said, I've seen an answer. He says Ahlul Bayt. And then I tried to search, to search whether Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, at Arafat or at Ghadir, did he mention the Quran and the companions? And I've not seen that. He didn't mention follow the Quran and follow the companions. He never said the Quran and the companions together. And the Sahaba, to me, obviously then, I've gone into the Sahaba then, because after that, that's the next question that follows on. So that's when I've gone right into the Sahaba then to speak about what is the difference and how my knowledge, you know, grew on in regards to the Sahaba.
MashaAllah. And you've mentioned, I'd just like to show the book if someone just joined us now. We've got Sister Anila with us, and she's written this very informative book. She's joined our religion of Shia Islam, and it's called The Succession of the Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, and we are discussing the things that she's written about. So, mashallah, sister, now moving on to this book, the things that you've mentioned in the book, you've also mentioned about the Sahabas, and I would just like to say first of all that we, as Shia Muslim, we all love the Sahabas. It's not that we only love the Ahlul Bayt. We just got this image that we only love the Ahlul Bayt, and we don't love the Sahabas. But you've mentioned the Sahabas in your book, mashallah. And what would you like to say, you know, about the Sahabas? Do you class them all the same? I mean, that is something that we have said in many programs on this channel, that we don't class all the Sahabas as the same. So how would you like to explain this from your book to the viewers so they can understand a lot better?
Well, first things first for me is always Quran. I always think Quran first. And in Surah At-Tawbah, which is one of the last chapters revealed of the Quran, Surah At-Tawbah, verse 100, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, وَالسَّابِقُونَ أَوَّلُونَ مِنَ الْمُهَاجِرِينَ وَالْأَنصَارِ وَالَّذِينَ تَبَعُوا بِإِحْسَانٍ رَضِيَ اللَّهُ عَنْهُ وَرَضُوا عَنْهُ. Now, Ahlul Sunnah, obviously they're my brothers and sisters. When this is quoted, everybody seems to think, okay, Razi Allah anhu upon the Sahaba. But Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in this verse is saying, وَالسَّابِقُونَ أَوَّلُونَ مِنَ الْمُهَاجِرِينَ, those who proceeded in faith from amongst the Muhajirin and the Ansar, Allah was pleased with them. Allah was pleased with, Allah said, and those who followed them in what was good, Allah was pleased with them as they are with Him. So Allah is not putting Allah doesn't say وَالسَّابِقُونَ أَوَّلُونَ الْمُهَاجِرِينَ al-Ansar. He's saying min al-Muhajirin wal-Ansar. So here Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is not specifying everybody the same. He's not specifying everybody to be part of this verse. And then obviously in Sahih Bukhari, Kitab al-Riqaq, which means to make the heart tender, this there are many traditions in Bukhari which I always never see anybody
that tells us
quoted.
that we can't class all the Sahabas as the same.
Because on the Day of Judgment, some people are going to come towards Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, and they're going to, Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, is going to recognize who these people are, and there's going to be a barrier placed in between that Prophet Muhammad and these people, and then Rasul sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, he's going to say, Ya Rabba Ashabi, O Lord, my Ashab, and then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is going to turn around and say, you do not know, innaka la tadri ma ahdatu ba'daka, you do not know what these people have done after you. You don't know what they have done after you. Then Rasul sallallahu alaihi wasallam is going to say, suhkan liman ghayyara, ba'di, far removed are those people who changed, so other than after me. And this coincides with the Sahaba. The word is ashabi in there. And there's another tradition by Jabir ibn Abdullah al-Ansari, where I think this was in case of the Ghazwa Bani Mustalik, where the Sahabi Ansar and Muhajirun started, there was some sort of, I don't know what it was, scuffle or something between them, and someone kicked, the Muhajirun kicked an Ansar, and in that it was Abdullah ibn Ubay, and he was stood there and he said, well, let us get back to Medina, and the mightier will expel the one that's mean, something like that in the tradition. And then Hazrat Umar, he gets angry and he states, let me chop the head off this hypocrite. Prophet Muhammad turns around and states, no, he doesn't want him doing that, and he says, for people are going to state that Muhammad kills his companions. So Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam is quoting this word companion in relation to a known hypocrite who is Abdullah ibn Ubay. So he is he's an ashab, but he's a hypocrite, and he's a known hypocrite. So there are ashab, there are verses in the Quran, we have Surah Munafiqun in the Quran, and so we don't
class them all the same.
We cannot class everybody the same, because he is a ashab, so he's not the same as a person who, we have to take everything in context.
Absolutely.
Because when Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam says, do not make my companions a target, well, we don't make the companions a target. The ones that when he's talking, he is not talking generally to everyone. He's talking here specifically, and we don't deny that. You cannot deny that. But when the Quran's speaking, the Quran's telling me not everybody's the same. The hadith of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam are telling me not everybody's the same. Some people pushed away from Prophet Muhammad. Then why should I carry on saying that I have to follow all the Sahaba, and all the Sahaba will grant me paradise, because I cannot follow that anymore.
No, absolutely, sister. I'll just show the viewers the book once again by our sister Anila Sultan. So everything that Sister Anila is mentioning over here today, mashallah, is all mentioned in the book, and all the traditions and all the information is in the book, and you can relate to that in the book, inshallah. Okay, sister, let's move on to another very important thing in the religion of Shia Islam, which is the Hadith-e-Qissa. So we all believe in the Hadith-e-Qissa, but what's the difference between the Shia way of thinking of Hadith-e-Qissa and the Sunni way of thinking of the Hadith-e-Qissa, which you've mentioned in your book?
Well, the Sunnis, they believe in the wives of the Prophet being included, whereas the Shia do not believe that the wives of the Prophet are included. And then, obviously they use the word used is stay in your houses, which is buyutikunna. Then when the verse of purification is addressed, the innama yuridu Allahu liyuzhiba ankum ar-rijsa ahlul bayt, the word ahlul bayt, which is just one house, is mentioned, and the address is changed from predominantly female to predominantly masculine. So it's not yutahirakunna, it's yutahirakum, and not ankunna, it's ankum in the actual verse. And because of that reason, the Shia say that the wives are not included. But to me, I can't just take the Quran alone. And like you speak about Ahlul Bayt, and you take from Ahlul Bayt, but because my initial thinking was to go into the Sahih Sitta, I went into Sahih Sitta and Sahih Muslim with the traditions in here anyway. In Sahih Muslim, there's a tradition to do, Bibi Aisha narrates it, and she says that Prophet